The OnePlus 6T is undoubtedly a great smartphone, but is it really worth paying the premium over the OnePlus 6? Let's review the OnePlus 6 in 2019 and talk about its younger brother. You can currently pick up the 8GB RAM version of the OnePlus 6 for around $500 or less new from Amazon, and around $470 with a limited discount on OnePlus's website at the time of filming this video. The OnePlus 6T costs more for the base model, upwards of $550. It's not a huge difference, but there will be various sales for the older model much more often than a newer one. The glass design of the OnePlus 6 feels just as premium as phones costing twice as much. There's certainly nothing cheap about it, and the graceful curvature and S-shaped reflections, the symmetry and satisfying buttons just bring about a sense of elegance that I really enjoy. Your index finger rests naturally on the incredibly responsive fingerprint sensor, so you're past the lock screen before the phone exits your pocket. Here we've encountered one area that doesn't remain the same in the OnePlus 6T, which has a slower in-screen fingerprint scanner. At the end of the day, it's down to personal preference, but I love being able to rapidly unlock my phone. All that saved time does add up. Speaking of save time, the alert slider does require a quick shuffle if you're using the phone, but it's unquestionably a major help, and something other companies could definitely try to include. The volume buttons are, thankfully, separated from the alert slider and power button, so no problems there. And speaking of the power button, a software update in November refreshed the useful navigation gestures and gave the OnePlus 6 the ability to open Google Assistant by holding the power button for half a second. I honestly cannot say how valuable this is to me daily, and I think this shows a certain consideration OnePlus has for user suggestions. The bottom of the phone houses three main things. The first is a single speaker grill. Honestly, it can be quite easily covered up, and the quality and loudness is average. Although a higher quality stereo setup would have been appreciated, it's not the end of the world, because the second thing is the headphone jack. This is, however, missing on the 6T, so definitely keep that in mind. There are also audio controls to really fine-tune your headphone experience. So audiophiles beware, the OnePlus 6 is going to be a better option for you. Or maybe for just people who prefer wired headphones in general. Nobody wants to deal with adapters. The final feature of interest on the bottom is a USB Type-C charging port, which lets Dash Charge do its thing and gives you a day's power in half an hour. I never have to worry about battery life on this thing, and I don't personally feel I'm missing anything with the lack of wireless charging. Speaking of battery, the 3300 mAh cell is more than sufficient in day-to-day tasks, and will give you 4.5 to 5.5 hours of screen on time at max brightness, with location services constantly on and Bluetooth used intermittently. Obviously, being more conservative will lead to even better battery life. The OnePlus 6T has a 3700 mAh battery capacity, reportedly leading to about 40 minutes more screen on time, so heavy users may notice the difference with the newer model. A big part of the experience on OnePlus devices is the software. We've got the latest Android 9.0 Pie here, which was made available for this phone just a few weeks after the Google Pixel phones. The light skin called Oxygen OS is debuted in a few areas, such as the stock launcher, minimalistic system apps, and various handy customization options. User experience, clean software, and fast updates are something OnePlus users hold dear, and in future the OnePlus 6 will be receiving Android 10 and Android 11 at the same time as the 6T. Another important aspect of any phone is the screen. Featured prominently is a 6.3-inch 1080p by 2280p OLED display, with deep blacks, rich colors, and a few calibration options. It gets bright enough for outdoor use and dim enough for night use. A recent update addressed a common problem of modern smartphones, the fact that the slightest brightness slider adjustment causes big changes at the dim end. Like I said, this has been fixed, and you can quickly modify low brightnesses with no problems. At 6.3 inches, the Full HD resolution modified for the lengthened aspect ratio remains perfectly sharp at regular viewing distance, maintaining a PPI of 402. A higher resolution, such as Ultra HD, would be detrimental to the Admiral battery life and unnecessary for most purposes, with the exception of virtual reality. The 6T, however, has a smaller and more futuristic looking notch, and a bottom chin that's shorter by 1mm. This phone packs specs that are soon to be considered last generation, but are tremendous nonetheless, and the same in both the OnePlus 6 and the OnePlus 6T. We've got a Snapdragon 845 with either 6 or 8GB of RAM and either 64, 128 or 256GB of storage. My model has 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, and in 5 months of usage I have yet to experience lag or stuttering. Longevity is where OnePlus shines, and some report online that the OnePlus 3s and 3Ts from 2016 are still buttery smooth. The 6GB RAM base model won't give you problems either, and this is important if you're not the type to upgrade phones often. Long story short, you'll be able to safely push this thing to its limits, and heavy users won't be disappointed in this future-proof device. Finally, the cameras. The selfie cam has a 16 megapixel sensor and is pretty good, allowing for a satisfactory AI portrait mode. The main rear camera is 16 megapixels, with optical image stabilization and natural-looking HDR for stills. The secondary camera is 20 megapixels, but is only used for portrait mode, which was surprisingly high quality. Although obviously not at DSLR level, you have various effects to play with, including changing the shape of the bokeh. One missing feature I hope will be added in a software update is the ability to change the depth of field, like the recent Apple and Samsung devices. You also have access to a much appreciated Pro mode, with manual control of the focus, shutter speed, and ISO, which I have used to take shots like this one. Overall, the OnePlus 6 and 6T's cameras won't blow you away, but can be relied upon to provide great image quality at a moment's notice, with quick access at the double tap of the power button at any time. The OnePlus 6 does everything as well as the average person needs it to, and better, in all honesty. I love my OnePlus 6, but the question is whether the 6T is worth the premium, especially with various sales going on involving the original 6. Obviously, the answer depends on you, but the main question you should ask yourself is whether it's worth trading off the headphone jack for slightly better battery life, a somewhat narrower notch, and a slower but more futuristic inbuilt fingerprint scanner. If you liked the video, subscribing would be very much appreciated. See you later.